All right, so once you have your tic-tac-toe board cut out of clay, what you're gonna go ahead and do is take your 6x6 template, and where the notches are right here, I want you to line it up on each side, and you can go ahead and take your green clay tool and just create these little notches. This will mark where we put our hashtag or our grid lines for our tic-tac-toe board. So you're gonna line it up on each of the 4 sides and do this. The next thing I can go ahead and do is actually just use my template here and create the lightest line possible. Okay, so very surface level, using just the edge of my template here and my green clay tool. And I'm just taking this and sketching it into the surface. I'm just connecting one line to the other. Oops. We want to line these up as good as we can. We also want to keep our lines in the surface. Okay, the next part I'm going to go ahead and do is I am going to roll a coil out of clay. So I'm going to kind of shove this over. So remember, a coil is an even strand of clay, and so what we're going to go ahead and do is we are going to just take a chunk of clay. So I have something that looks like this. And remember, we're going to take the palm of our hand. We're going to keep the palm of our hand and our fingers kind of really stiff. And we're going to roll the clay from palm all the way to fingers. And I'm going to start in the middle of my strand of clay and work my way out. Okay, so I have my hand here in the center of it, and as I start to press down, sorry if this is moving, y'all, as I start to press down, the clay kind of starts to smush outward. Sorry, I'm gonna form this a little better with my fingers first. Make it a little bit more out. There we go. So I'm starting in the center and working my way out to the edge. And the goal is to create a strand that is even thickness. So as I work my way out to the edge, I'm going to put a little bit more pressure on the edge just to make it as even as possible. All right, now to kind of get this off camera, actually, no, I'm not gonna do that, never mind. So again, I want this as even as possible. All right, so I have this strand that's a decent, even thickness. I personally would prefer to make it a little bit thinner, but this is kind of what I have for camera purposes. And what I'm going to do is attach it to my my board, my tic-tac-toe board. Now what I'm going to go ahead and do here for this part is I'm going to move my coil out of the way. This will actually represent probably more than one of my tic-tac-toe lines. And I'm going to attach it by scoring, slipping, and smoothing it on top of these lines that I have sketched out. Okay, so what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to line it up. So it looks like that. All right, this is about how much I need, so I'm going to go ahead and cut it with my green clay tool right here. this is how much I need here. All right, and in order for it to bake together as one unit, I can't just smush it on there and be done with it. I do have to attach it appropriately so that it survives almost 2,000 degrees in the kiln, okay? So these are my little pieces that are gonna go for my hashtag here. I'm gonna move these to the side. I am gonna go ahead and score my clay. So I'm gonna use the fork, and score marks are basically like scratch marks, okay? So I'm gonna scratch them where I'm going to place the clay. Now think of this as Velcro. So, you know, when you have Velcro, you have sort of the spiky side and then the soft side. So I do have to also score or scratch the surface of the clay that I'm going to attach on. All right. So again, Velcro has two sides. You also have to score the piece you're attaching, where it's going to attach, and then the surface of the clay that you're going to attach. The next thing I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to add a little bit of water on my finger, and I'm going to add it. So real slip is a clay water mixture. We are just using water. We are not drowning any of these pieces of clay. We're just adding a small amount of moisture, and I am going to then place my clay piece on top like this and make it as straight as possible. So I can smush it down at this point, kind of like this, okay? Now, a couple of things. It is not attached on. So just because I've scratched it, just because I've added the water, it is not completely attached on. The last thing I have to do is smooth clay over the surface, okay? So if I were to pick up my board right here and look at this from the side, see how there is a line that separates one piece of clay from the other. We have to pull clay over the seams on any sides so that it bakes together and not separate, okay? You'll see what I mean in just a moment. So I'm gonna take my green clay tool, and I am going to press in and down on both sides of this coil of clay. And right now, this is called smoothing. I like to do this in two steps. So the first is using my green clay tool to press down and out. The second is to use a little bit of my finger to do the rest. Okay, so I'm doing it on this side. Now, as I'm doing this, I'm also thinking about craftsmanship, okay? So I want to attach this on, but I also don't want to make it look like something ate it, okay? So right now, this is what I have, and I want to share with you from the side what this looks like, okay? So see how there's no longer a line that separates one piece of clay from the other, okay? This is step one of smoothing it out. Now, the only problem with this is this kind of looks like little bite marks or smooth marks to me. I'm gonna take just a little bit of water in my finger and smooth that out, okay? And again, we don't want to add too much water to our clay, because anytime you add too much water, it just becomes like mud, okay? And really wet mud is very hard to work with, okay? So once I've smoothed it out, here's what it looks like, okay? So when I've smoothed it out with my finger, see how there's no line separating one piece of clay from the other? That means it's attached completely appropriately, all right? I'm gonna really quickly do the other one, because my class is waiting for me. All right, so remember, score, okay, using that fork, scratch marks, both surfaces, slip, a little bit of water, both surfaces, okay? And to smooth out, to smooth out your strands, your coils, remember, pull down, down and out. Notice as I'm pulling down and out, I'm also supporting my clay here. I'm going to do it on the other side. All right, now once I've smoothed that clay, right, I've pulled it over the seam. The only problem is it doesn't look good, so I'm going to take a little bit of water on my finger and smooth that out, okay? I'm gonna also chop these ends real quick, just because they went over as I worked it. Okay, and the last thing I can go ahead and do is I can do the other sections. Now I'm not going to do the other sections in this video, but here's what this could potentially look like. Okay, I want to do the rest of my hashtag grid there. I'm going to go ahead and cut a piece, just using my needle tool right there. I'm going to add another one here, measure it, cut it. Okay. For the last part of my strand, I would have to roll another coil here. Okay, so and I would score, slip, and smooth these on, but you're going to end up cutting little sections for your opposite grid lines. Okay, so just kind of keep that in mind as you're working.